It's a pleasure to welcome you to our session on sustainable economic development in mining. We're on, I guess, the home stretch here at Expoplaza Latina. Mafalda Arias is president of Mafalda Arias and Associates and has over 19 years' experience working in various capacities in public and private companies in the mineral exploration and mining industries in Canada and South America. She is very familiar with the challenges the mining industry faces in different parts of the world. Her exposure to different cultures ignited her interest in understanding and dealing with cross-cultural situations in depth. Mafalda, thanks for joining us.
My angle to the sustainability aspect comes from the cultural component. And so for me, sustainability is not only a report compliance exercise or a green revolution. It is a long-term, profitable, and sustainable proposition. And that's why I believe that sustainability now, the new approach is 4 pillars: the social, the economic, the environmental, and the cultural part. Because that is the component that is going to bridge the interest of the corporations and the individuals. And culture is the agent that balances the Western beliefs that are the foundation that set the tone for sustainability, and the Eastern beliefs that actually have sustainability as the end result. So if we look at, quick lines through history, explorer built through conquest. Conquest is redefined with technology, and then it's technology that sets the foundation for the Industrial Revolution. When we look at this and we think of this from the resource industry component, evolution means an efficient technology for the extraction of natural resources. So survival and evolution mean the control of Mother Nature. And this is key to understand why culture is such an important component to have a balance. Because when we think of our homeland, we have landmarks that have meaning to us, and all of us are attached to our land. So, and everything has a meaning. And so when we think about sustainability and the definition that Brundtland Commission and UNESCO gave, it says, sustainability is meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability for future generations to meet their own needs. Quite powerful statement. And if we think about the idea of culture being formed in layers, just like the earth, one layer after another one, and that culture is a shared pattern of beliefs, behavior, and values of a group of people, it really helps us to understand that the way that we interpret and organize our reality is based on our experience. Through the perception and how we see things, we give meaning to our experience. And this is where culture comes around. Because culture helps us frame, explain why this or that situation is important. It frames absolutely everything. It gives meaning to our experiences and the interpretation of our experiences. And this is what I call building the invisible asset, which is the asset that will help you make that bridge. So regardless what modern technology, for example, you use when you're constructing a building, if the foundation is not taken care of, that building will not be able to sustain itself. That's why culture is an important pillar for sustainability, because sustainability will not be able to sustain itself if culture is ignored. Thank you.
Mafalda Arias, things that are working well, things that are not working well, mining in Latin America.
I think the industry generally, like any industry, is suffering some of the effects of what are the challenges of working globally. And distance is no longer an issue. You can fly and go wherever you need to go in the world. Language is no longer a barrier. You hire a translator, learn a language. Worst case, use Google Translate and you're able to communicate. But the barriers to the challenges are kind of invisible, and that's where culture comes. From a simple premise like how you want me to treat you. Some of you might have heard of the golden rule. I'll treat you the way I like to be treated. When I say something like that, I'm making the assumption and the proposition that the way I like to be treated is the universal and the only way. And that's not necessarily the case. You might like to be treated differently. So we have to adapt our way of thinking, and instead of starting from the premise of the golden rule, start from the platinum rule. I'll treat you the way you like to be treated. And that in itself is a different platform to start a relationship, because you're starting from empathy. I think the other thing that it's a challenge is that Some of the Western tradition is founded on scientific numbers, written data, etc. Some cultures in the Andes or any other jurisdiction, but because we're in Expoplaza, we're talking about Andean cultures. Some of those traditions and knowledge, traditional knowledge, is not based on science. Those are oral traditions. So we always have this conflict as to what is more valid. For some of us, it's Western style, whatever is printed, the numbers that exist, the data that we have. But that doesn't diminish that, that is one value of seeing one culture. But there are other cultures that value their oral tradition. And we have that in Northern Canada and different First Peoples that we have here. So to me, those are the three different components that are a challenge to the industry and when the industry works globally and in Latin America.
Mafalda, while you've got the mic, maybe if you could share any specifics that come to mind with respect to cultural considerations that are underappreciated. Any specific examples?
Yes, I remember the case. It was a company that was working in an exotic destination, let's put it that way. They were doing all the right things. They wanted to increase the living standards of the community where they were operating. So they were constructing this mine site, and the community had, houses that may not be the same style of your house. It was, fairly basic. So they wanted to help them enhance their lives, and they started, building new houses for them. And this process of putting a mine from exploration to construction, it's a long proposition. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes years. So during all those years, industry, this company is cohabitating with the community, so they finished the new houses. They delivered the new houses to the community, and the community didn't like them. The house that was built was exactly probably like your house. There's a living room, dining room, kitchen, regardless of the details of what were the quality of the finishing. It's a house like your house. So why the community didn't like the house? What was wrong with this? Was the kitchen in the wrong? What happened? Bigger windows, smaller windows, you didn't like the size of the door, etc. Was none of that. They could have, and this is where the challenge of the invisibility part of culture comes. Because they were building these houses, and they never observed that in this community, the kitchen was outside the house. And why was the kitchen outside the house? Because that was the livelihood of that community. When they were cooking, when each house was cooking outside, they were talking about what's going on. They were talking about their lives, what they wanted, what they needed. So they were sharing their stories outside. The moment the kitchen is put inside the house, like it's the case in my apartment or probably your house, they kill the soul of that community. So, culture is in front of you, but if you don't have your right glasses, you may not see it.
Mining companies versus communities, how do the definitions differ, do they?
I think some of them might be aligned and might be the same, and some completely different, and it will depend, when I look at it once again from the lenses of culture, there's all kinds of culture. There's corporate culture, national culture, individual culture, and each one will have a completely different perspective. There are some points that are going to be aligned with because they have some commonality of values, and others not. So it depends on the corporate culture of the specific company, the community where they're working, and the individuals that at the end carry and deliver those initiatives. But there was something else that I wanted to talk about, and it's related to what Glenn was saying, and it's about this unlock possibilities. And I agree with what he was saying, that we all have our own comfort zone. Accountants like to get together with accountants. Geologists like to get together with geologists. And so we all live very comfortable within those boundaries. Now, this area of sustainability and social responsibility is truly an interdisciplinary approach. It's not just static on this particular group. And that is where the definitions perhaps are different, because we have to expand our comfort level and go beyond that. If you put it in your own personal terms, just look at your circle of friends. Is everybody like you? Are all your friends like you? The same age, the same political views, the same religion, the same appearance? It's hard to stretch and have, a tutti-frutti circle around you. Similarly, it's hard to extend your circle of professionals and be comfortable dealing with absolutely every single realm. But concepts like this require that flexibility, that you have such an open spectrum that the definitions are no longer static, and they move according to the times. And I think the industry has been working really hard in trying to expand that comfort zone in many different things. The previous panel, I believe, or the one before, we were talking about, a conference that happened in town just recently, I think last week, Roundup. Then that was one example of something, naturally, like many other industries, we all like to talk shop among ourselves, but the industry is shifting, and it's opening, and it's expanding their vision. One initiative that I noticed around that was absolutely phenomenal. They had a tent that was called The Gathering Place. And The Gathering Place had different people that are involved in the industry from Aboriginal communities, chiefs and everybody. The first day that place opened, it was a standing room only. Industry, service providers, association, communities, corporations, everybody talking and interacting with each other in a level that 20 years ago, it was not possible. Similarly, for example, they're offering during the PDAC in Toronto, they have, a couple of Aboriginal sessions. That's another platform of, there are stories of success, corporate success and community success, so that those definitions of sustainability have met one another. And those stories are role models to be followed by others and to be shared. So that's something that I just wanted to share with some of you in the audience that don't come from the industry. The industry, it's opening. It's becoming more interdisciplinary than many might think. I'm not saying it's perfect. There's always room for improvement, but it's shifting. And there's a new generation.